Welcome all to another episode of the C64 Roundup, your concise guide to the latest news and releases for your Commodore 64. We'll start this month off with a feature game title, Deathflood Dungeon of Doom by Wendigo Productions. Deathflood Dungeon of Doom is an interesting arcade platform game that sees you take on the role of an explorer who has found themselves trapped deep in a dark dungeon full of evil creatures, deadly traps and rising flood waters. Your goal is simple, try to get out alive while collecting as much loot as possible on the way. The game starts off feeling like a typical platform game until you activate a mechanism that causes the dungeon to tremble and then changes the rate at which the floodwaters rise. As you make your way to the level exit, you might find yourself underwater, but luckily this doesn't mean instant death and you have some time to get your head above the water before your oxygen runs out. To get to exits, you'll often have to pick up keys and use wall switches. On some of the levels, you'll need to use secret passages that connect you from one doorway to another, requiring a little bit of trial and error to find the right order to take these passages. In an added twist, many of the levels have more than one way to complete them, and each path you take is suited to one of the two characters you have available to play. Playing as a barbarian means that your attacks inflict more damage, but he is far less nimble. While playing as an Amazon means that you can move about at a faster pace while jumping farther distances, but this is at the cost of having a weaker attack. Let me tell you that playing as a barbarian is a frustrating experience, as manoeuvring him around the screen was cumbersome. I quickly learned to avoid going along paths that required tricky jumps at all costs, as it felt like the jumping mechanism was broken. It wasn't until I started playing as the Amazon that I realised that the limitation to the barbarian controls was intentional. Controlling the Amazon character with her improved speed and jumping mechanic made Deathflood feel like an almost completely different game, one that I started to enjoy very much as I preferred taking paths that avoided enemy combat. So what you get with Deathflood is two noticeably different experiences within the one game, depending on which character you play. I also appreciate that if you lose all your hit points, the game gives you an opportunity to start off from the same screen, but at a cost of 6 coins. If you don't have the 6 coins, then it's game over, I'm afraid. When you complete one of the main sections of the game, you're provided with some statistics. One of the other things I grew to appreciate about Deathflood is that you don't have to collect all the coins. But just note that if you finish the game with a low amount of coins, your life outside of the dungeon won't exactly be paved in gold, so there is some replayability within the game as you strive to complete the game with a good ending. Deathflood is a game I started out disliking when I played as the barbarian, and ended up thoroughly enjoying it when I switched across to the Amazon character. The game offers a number of good twists to the platform gaming genre that makes it really stand out in today's C64 gaming era. Deathflood is available as a free digital download, but for physical collectors you can pre-order a copy of the game on cartridge or diskette from Polyplay. Here is some of the latest C64 news that has caught my interest. Cytronic Software has announced that Polar Bear in Space is now available to order as a physical cartridge edition. Originally released last year on digital, USB cassette and disc formats, Polar Bear in Space is a highly polished multi-genre game title that looks great but was considered to have a very high degree of difficulty that took some of the shine away from the game. Well, the great news is that the cartridge version includes an easier difficulty mode and a number of adjustments to the in-game mechanics, which instantly make the game a lot more engaging and fun to play. Having played through the revised version, I was so surprised by how much better Polar Bear in Space is as a result of the changes, and it's certainly worth another look for any of you who found the game too frustrating last year. The 2020 smash hit Fix-It Felix Jr. has also received a minor update. Version 1.1 of the game has had a number of enhancements added, including the fixing of minor graphical glitches and flickering, the addition of some new digitized speech, a high score saver implementation, and easy flash support. Alf Ingve has confirmed that he has commenced work on a sequel to Captain Ishtar. The working title for the game is Captain Ishtar vs. the Federation's Most Wanted, and sees Captain Ishtar become an interstellar cop hunting down wanted criminals on different planets. The game will feature separate stages that will be quite varied in their design. For instance, one stage is clearly inspired by the Sega arcade classic Bank Panic. According to Alf, the final stage will feature a bit of puzzle gaming where the player is encouraged to search for hidden items in an alien setting. Interesting. There is no set release date for this game, and I would not expect it to be ready until 2024. But in the meantime, you can support Alf on this project by signing up to his Patreon. Robert Wilson from RWX Designs is currently working on Tiki, a single-screen platform game based on characters from the Taito game, The New Zealand Story. The backstory to the game is that Tiki now has a daughter and she's been kidnapped by the evil penguin Wiro. In order to get his daughter back, Tiki will need to safely travel through different parts of an island, collecting special treasured eggs for Wiro. The game is expected to span across 4 levels, each consisting of 3 rounds, with bonus rounds linking each level. Tiki is not expected to be finished for at least another year, so it will be interesting to follow the game's progress as they come to hand on RWX Design's itch.io page. Commodore has provided RGN with an exclusive clip showing the latest progress of the upcoming RPG title, Meon Larval. Just to remind you all, the plot to the game sees you looking to avenge your father who has died at the hands of the vampires. Meon Larval will feature high-res bitmap graphics along with multi-day settings, a turn-based combat system, and a great variety of weapons. In an added twist, your character will be susceptible to becoming a vampire, which will alter the game path ahead unless you find the antidote in time. This one still has some time to go, but Commodore is looking to release a small playable demo of the game as part of the cover disc to a future issue of Zap 64 Micro. Let's check out some other notable new game releases of late. Jump and Crate is a single-screen platform game where your objective is to collect all the crates on screen before the timer runs out. The time counter starts to decrease the moment the level kicks off, so you need to get a move on and start collecting those crates. Coming into contact with enemy robots or their bullets will further knock down your time, as will collecting deformed crates. Collecting time capsules will increase your time counter, and you're going to need to collect these, as your time counter does not reset when you complete a level. And this is where the game challenge lies, trying to complete all 5 levels before your time totally runs out. You'll be replaying the levels over and over again, trying to be as efficient as possible in order to complete the game. I did find some of the hit detection in respect to landing on platforms to be a little off, and this did cause some frustration, but the game is somewhat addictive. Jump and Crate does have the potential to be something a lot more substantial with a little more time and effort, as its 5 levels are not really going to sustain you very long. The game is available as a free digital download from itch.io. The Last Defender is a single-screen arcade shooter where your objective is to use your laser gun to eliminate the hostile alien race that has come to take over Earth. With every shot you give off, your gun loses energy, requiring a bit more time to recharge. The longer you wait between shots, the more damage you inflict on aliens. The game starts off quite passively, with aliens more or less just moving up and down the screen, barely raising a threat, After every few levels, the game throws something new in for you to deal with, such as floating mines that destroy everything on screen, including yourself, and rockets or aliens that come from the lower sides of the game world. There are bonus rounds thrown in for you to accumulate extra points, which prove to be useful as at 10,000 points and then every 20,000 thereafter, you're rewarded an extra life. The Last Defender has the potential to be a very good arcade-style game, but for some reason it left me a little flat. It does have a good go at trying to provide progressive gameplay, but it just didn't quite hit the mark for me. It all kind of feels a little basic overall. Maybe it's the fact that there is only one location setting, and maybe it's because the game fails to utilise any form of pickups to give you additional firepower, as shooting with your laser does feel slow and monotonous. Even the boss battle feels quite dull. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad game at all. I quite like the overall aesthetics of the game, and I like how it gives you 3 different control modes for you to choose the best that suits your own style. It's just that I want the game to be more than it is, because there really is a great potential to The Last Defender. I think LC Games just needs to set their aspirations a little higher to apply more sophistication to their projects. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game. Anyway, The Last Defender is both NTSC and PAL compatible and is available as a free digital download from itch.io. Vox Video Game is a proficient developer of C64 games built using the Shoot 'em Up construction kit engine, and I thought I'd give their latest release a try. 1945 Vox is a Seok interpretation of the 1942 series of arcade games. There really isn't too much to the game, to be honest. The presentation is fine, but the gameplay action is severely lacking. It is anything but fast-paced, that's for sure. You spend most of the time flying around with nothing happening, and the enemy attack patterns are somewhat repetitive. In fact, you can get to the end of the game boss level without shooting down any enemy planes at all if you want. The power-ups you collect are nothing more than just bonus points, and to make things worse, the game makes the mistake of having trees and buildings as hazards that you can crash into. This is just silly. My plane is miles up in the air, and this should just not be possible. I know many of you will have strong feelings towards charging for Seok-based games. If you feel like venting, here's your chance to do so in the comments section. Aztec Tomb is an arcade puzzle-style game where you explore an underground Aztec tomb looking for an ancient relic. To get to the exit of each level, you need to solve rudimentary puzzles while collecting diamonds. Some levels require you to push boulders into certain spots to set off triggers, while others require you to push boulders strategically into water in order to create a path ahead. It's all pretty straightforward, and unfortunately the current version of the game only has 8 levels to solve. Would definitely like to see more levels, as I quite enjoyed playing this one. It's nothing special, but provides good fun for one session play. Aztec Tomb is a free digital download from itch.io. Ooze the Escape has been ported across to the C64 by Haplo, with game graphics being redone by Andy Johns, one of the coders behind the original ZX Spectrum game. Ooze is a platform arcade adventure that sees you play as Ooze, a sentient blob that has been captured by evil machines. You need to guide Ooze through laboratories and ventilation ducts, avoiding the robotic guards in an attempt to escape from a dangerous subterranean complex, using its gravity reversing powers to overcome obstacles. To escape, you must disable the 4 force fields by finding their corresponding colour-coded keys and inserting them into the central system. The controls simply involve moving left or right to move and pressing the joystick button to flip between the floor and ceiling. You start with 5 lives and can gain extra lives hidden throughout the complex. You die instantly if you touch a hazard, and there is no checkpointing as you reset at the start of each screen you die on. Ooze is a very well executed game that does look quite nice with its high-res graphics. This is definitely my favourite game from Haplo since he started producing C64 games recently. It is not an overly large or difficult game, making it quite accessible to most players. As there is no timer in the game, you can spend some time sussing out each screen before you start to make a move. It initially takes a little time to get used to flipping the gravity mechanism, but after this, moving Ooze about is quite fun. The C64 version of Ooze does contain a number of improvements over the ZX Spectrum version, including an auto map, which is always a winning feature for me. Ooze is an easy recommendation for me, and is available as a free digital download from itch.io. And that is a wrap on another edition of the C64 Roundup. I hope you enjoyed the content, and it inspires you to try out some of the games on show. I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from the C64 gaming scene across the next few weeks, so the next C64 roundup will hopefully be in August. Until next time, bye for now.